My name is Eric. I work with Forte, and today I'd like to show you some exercises that are good for your ankles and feet. Now, I took my shoes off because a couple of the exercises I'm going to do are going to involve the toes, and I just want you to be able to, the toes and actually even the arches of my feet. So I want you to be able to see what's happening with those areas a little bit more effectively. I'll turn sideways so you can see things from the side as well. And then near the end of these exercises, I'll also show just a couple of standing balance related activities that are also, again, directly associated with the ankles and the feet. So let's get started. The other thing I want you to keep in mind, or the thing I want you to keep in mind while we're doing all exercises that I teach, is I'd like you to remember to engage your stomach muscles. So we just do a little bit of a light tightening of the tummy, not so much that you can't breathe, not so much that it's changing spine position or anything along those lines. It's just a light engagement. And mostly it's because when we have a stable core, everything else works a little bit better. So even though I'm sitting down, I'm going to lightly engage those tummy muscles. And I'm going to start off by doing toe curling, which is really just exactly what it should sound like. It's just curling my toes down. So if you look down at my toes, I'm just going to curl them under. I'm going to hold for a few seconds. I'm going to let it relax. You can technically do this in most shoes. Some people's shoes are a little tight. I wouldn't want to do this, for example, in heels. But in most shoes, you can do this in your shoe. Otherwise, it's easy enough to kick the shoe off in most cases. Curl your toes, hold for a few seconds, let it relax, curl your toes. And I'm just going to keep doing that for a little bit. Most people don't engage their toes often enough. And as a result, our toe muscles get weak. But our toes are integral in our safety and balance. If our toes are working more effectively, they help propel us forward better. They help us balance better. And so they're really kind of an important thing. I will often have people that have foot-related issues that in the process of evaluating and treating them, I define that they have weakness in their toe muscles. And so this is just an exercise that a lot of people get from me for foot-related issues as well. We're going to do the opposites now. So it's, and actually just from the side, again, what that looked like was just this, if you need a little bit more of a view. I keep slouching a little bit. So do remember to try to sit up straight, keep your tummy engaged. So now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to pull the toes up. Now, again, this isn't the front of my feet. This is just my toes. Holding it up for a few seconds, let it back down. Hold it up for a few seconds, let it back down. I'm going to turn and face you again. From the front, again, it just looks like this. And similarly, these are things that I give people that have foot-related issues. And these are things that I give people that have toe-related issues. I'll even go so far with a lot of people as to have them practice picking things up with their toes. The more strength and even dexterity that you have in your toes, much like you would have in your fingers, maybe not quite the same, but the better off you are as far as your balance and your function. And you might just be surprised just by doing some toe-related exercises, how much better everything feels in your feet. Okay, we'll do a couple more of those. And again, I usually do a 3 to maybe a 5-second hold, and I just do it until I get tired of it and I move on to the next thing. This is something that's passive enough that you can do, for your mind at least, that you can do it pretty easily throughout the day without having to really think too hard about it. I'm going to turn sideways with just one foot. So look at that left foot for a second. Next thing we're going to do is call an arch up. And I have a pretty flat foot, as you can probably see. All I'm going to do is tighten up my arch muscles down there and let it, and hold that for a few seconds and then let it relax. And what you'll see is it kind of draws my toes backward a little bit. My toes are still relatively out straight, and then let it relax. And I'm just tightening up that arch, just right up and through here. This is a funky activity for a lot of people to learn how to do. Again, from the front, you can't really see a whole bunch happening, but if you look really close, you'll see that that arch of my foot comes up just a little bit. I'll turn so you can see the other side also. It's just tightening up a little bit in there, hold for a few seconds, let it back down. This is a difficult activity. This is not something that comes naturally. Again, I've been teaching this to people for 20 odd years at this point. So this is something I have a lot of practice doing, and I do it for myself because I have very flat feet. and I'm trying to prevent arch-related pains, or even things like some people may have heard of plantar fasciitis. This is one of those things, again, that I give to a lot of people that have foot problems like that, to help strengthen up the muscles that do help support and create an arch for people in a lot of cases. All right, I'm going to face forward again. We'll do just a couple more of those. It's difficult also not to want to try to engage your toes in that, and you can. If your toes curl while you're trying to arch up your feet, that's fine also. If you haven't seen her before, this is Java. She likes to get involved in some of the exercises with me. I try to keep her out of the way so that it doesn't disturb anybody's view of what it is that I'm doing. I'm going to scoot back a little bit, and my chair is a little bit high, so this makes it a little easier for me. I'm in a counter height chair, but just so you can see what's happening with my feet, I'm going to do inversion, so turning my feet inward toward one another, and then eversion, so turning my feet out away from one another. Inversion and eversion, and this is defined really by the position of the heel in this case, and I don't want to get super technical about it, but this is strengthening the muscles that pull your foot inward, strengthening the muscles that pull your feet outward. And what it is not is it's not me changing the positions of my knees, right? It's just about the ankle and the foot. And we're just going in and out like so. All right. If you were having your feet on the floor, you certainly can still do this. You know, you can turn your feet up, right? And you can turn your feet in. My knees moved a little bit when I did that. They will move a little bit, especially if it's a newer activity for you. You'll feel like your toes are really getting engaged in it. We tend to recruit more muscles than we need to when we're doing a new activity. And as you get better at it, you'll feel less of it. It's not going to hurt you to have more muscles actively engaged. In fact, it's good for most of us. You can also do this one leg at a time, you know, where you're just kind of turning it in, turning it out. Some people will do it with their leg crossed, and they'll kind of turn up and then they'll turn out. I don't particularly care what position you do it in. This is just a good way to create some strength and stability around your ankles. It helps gain some range of motion for a lot of people as well, so that when we are walking on uneven surfaces, we have the strength and the control to be able to do that a little bit more easily. All right, we did the inversion, eversion. Now we're going to do heel raises and toe raises. If you've seen other videos with me, you've probably seen these in something else. Okay, I'm going to go back and forth with these this time. A lot of times I showed all heels and then all toes. I'm still going to try to keep my tummy engaged while I'm doing it, and I'm just going back and forth. And again, if you don't want to have to get up, you can do these absolutely just sitting still. Anytime you actively contract your muscles, you're going to stimulate them to do something, to do work. When we stimulate muscles to do work, it does help them gain either strength, endurance, flexibility, things along those lines. Even if this feels relatively easy to you, if you do enough of them in a row, you'll get to a point where you're starting to feel fatigue in those muscles as well. The alternative to this is to do it standing. And in fact, the last couple of things that I'm going to show you are going to be standing and progressing toward different levels of balance. So I'm going to go ahead and stand up now for the rest of this. I'm going to put my chair out here just as a balance point. And I'm going to continue with the heel raises. This one off screen here, and then the toe raises. And that's okay if the top of my head goes off screen. It really isn't that important to what it is we're paying attention to. It should all be about those feet and ankles here. So just forward and back, tummy still staying tight. The other thing I'll say as you stand up is try to engage those glutes. So engaging the tummy, engaging the glutes, keeping that all active, stabilizing the core so that we're just kind of, well, really stable. Like I said it, right? We're stabilizing the core while we go. Chairs for balance. If you don't need it, you can do this without using the chair. Okay, next step while we're standing is going to be all about balance. And what I'd like you to do, some people can't put their feet together for a variety of reasons. I want you to put your feet as close together as possible. And this is where balance begins, is by getting our feet closer and closer toward each other, toward a midline, toward a center point. And I'm going to have you find center. So what I want you to do is at first lean yourself back as far as you can without falling over backward, where you feel a lot of pressure on your heels and you feel like your toes are about to come up You should feel the fronts of the legs kind of kicking in to keep you from falling too far backward. And then I want you to lean yourself too far forward where you feel a lot of pressure. Your toes are really grabbing, keeping you from going too much further, and your muscles in your calves should be kicking in to try to pull you back. You know that those are both too far in one direction or another. And then you're going to slowly shift forward and back until you get smaller movements and you find a center of balance. When you're in the center of your balance, we're just going to hold this position. So just stay there. If you want to make it a little more difficult, you can do hands across your chest. If you want to make it even harder, you can go hands overhead. But I'm going to keep talking. So you do whatever works for you. When you're in your center, you should feel like the whole bottom of your foot or feet, bottoms of your feet, are really in contact with the floor, except for your arches. And it should be relatively equal pressure on your toes, on your heels, on the sides of your feet, and if you have really flat feet, in through your arches as well. It shouldn't feel like there's a lot of pressure in just one specific area. When you're here, you should be trying to grab the floor with your toes, and you should feel like your arches are pulling up ever so slightly. So we're actively contracting all those muscles we did at the beginning there with the toes and the arches, to try to hold that position and really stabilize there. Now, after you've been here for about a minute, the next step really, and there are modifications, so I'll show them to you, is to put one foot slightly forward of the other. Now, if your balance is really not good at all, about a half a step forward and keeping them in to get in close like this is a good place to start. If you can go all the way to where your toe gets out in front, your heel gets out in front of your toe, that's your next step. And the third position would be to get the toe, or the heel, sorry, in front of the toes and stand in this tandem stance. Those other versions are modified versions of what we call tandem stance. This is tandem. You can see I wobble a little bit. Now, again, I want you to sit all the way back so you feel most of the weight on the back foot. I want you to shift all the way forward where you feel most of the weight on the front foot. I want you to shift yourself back and forth just a little bit. Find your center where you have equal pressure on the front foot and the back foot. And in fact, most of the weight you should feel in the heel of the front and the toes of the back. You're going to grab the floor with your toes, okay? And you should feel that again on as much of your foot as possible, but really grab the floor with your toes. If you're still having a hard time with balance, find a focal point right in front of you. Keep your eyes on that. If it's easy for you, again, hands can go across your chest. You can reach up overhead. Those are certainly more challenging positions for you. We're going to stay there for just a couple more seconds, and then we're going to switch, okay? So again, you can put a half forward, a full forward, or a cross in front, whatever works well for you. Shift and find your center. Okay, and usually in this position, we start off with we aim for 30 seconds. You can keep touching down. I don't want you to hold on any more than you have to. If you're holding on so much that you feel no wobble at all, you're holding on too much. If you are here and you feel a little wobble, I feel a little wobble, that means my muscles are working. They're learning how much they need to kick on to hold me in that position. The longer I stay there, the more fatigued they get, so they wobble more. Grab the floor with your toes. And you'll find that 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, one position is easier or harder than the other. And usually the foot that's in the back is doing just a tiny bit more work. And so for me, my left foot is the one I always have worse balance on than my right foot. And it's working a little harder right now. And so my balance in this position is not as good as my balance was the other way. All right, I'm gonna put my feet back together and we're gonna move to a single leg stance next. So what you're gonna do is stand on 1 foot. You don't have to lift your other foot up very high. Just gonna stay here for about 10 seconds. You can touch down if you need to. Again, just try to touch down versus hold on. And then we're going to switch. And a 10-second hold is a place to start with the standing on 1 leg. For some people, 5 seconds is enough to get started. As you're doing it, find your center on each foot. Engage your glute on the foot that you're standing on. Grab the floor with the toes on the foot that you're standing on. And remember to keep your tummy engaged all the time. The more you can keep the tummy and the glutes engaged, that really helps more with balance than people realize. And then again, just keep switching back and forth. The more you grab the floor with your toes, the more you'll feel that your balance is improving as well. Now, I keep sticking my foot forward. You can lift your foot up in the back. You can do a variety of different things that people do with yoga. It doesn't really matter. As long as you're just practicing standing on one foot, that really is the key with it. And that really is a pretty good place to start for people with foot and ankle related exercises, also with some beginning balance activities. My name is Eric. I work with Forte. If you have questions about exercises or other ways that we can help you in your life, please look to us for answers. We hope you have a great day.
We here at Forte would like to thank you for watching our video. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to follow more of the offerings from Forte, please subscribe below. And don't forget to share us with your friends. Enjoy well-being.